Hi. Now in last week's YouTube film I was talking about photographing birds in flight, and I'd got them leaving this perch and flying across to a feeder, and I was photographing them in between. And I just mentioned the small problem that although it would keep them in focus as they were flying across, once they're out of the picture, sometimes the autofocus jumped onto the background and wouldn't readily come back onto this perch. And I showed you the one solution, which is just to touch the rear screen where this is and it would just focus on it. But I could also set the focus limiter up to prevent it jumping onto the background in the first place. So that's what we're going to do today. It's not a feature that I make much use of, but it's something I would like to start to make more use of. I think one of the reasons I don't use it, it's too fiddly, too complicated. Now we've had focus limiting switches on lenses, big telephoto lenses, for decades, well at least 1 decade, probably 2 decades. So this one has a switch, it's a 3-way switch. I can set it so that it will focus from infinity right down to the minimum focus, which is 1.3 meters, or I can restrict it so it can only focus between 1.3 meters and 6 meters, and the third option between 6 meters and infinity. So that's just a 3-way switch on the side of the lens. I have never made use of that. It was on my Canon lenses, the Sony lens I owned for a while, and on the Olympus lenses. The numbers are just inappropriate for bird photography, so I've never found that useful. But with Olympus OM cameras, you can do a similar thing, but in the camera body, and you can set those distances to whatever you like. So I really want it to focus from about here to about there. I don't have to be fussy, I don't have to get it right down to small details, just as long as it's in that rough area. Your problem is, how do you know how far it is from where your camera is to this perch? Most of us are not very good at judging distances. Well, I have a cunning plan. No, that is not the cunning plan. Fortunately, you can determine the distance from the camera to the subject using the camera itself. You use the feature called pre-manual focus. And the way you do that is you've got to get into pre-manual focus. So we can get there more than one way, but if I press the button to get the main control panel up, at the moment we've got continuous focus with manual focus override. I've got to change that. So if I press that, we come across manual focus, continuous autofocus tracking, pre-manual focus. That's what I want. As soon as you get there, you press the info button on the back of the camera, and now it's telling us at the moment the focus is 001.3. If I press the shutter release button halfway down to autofocus on that feeder, you can see we're now at 2 meters. We are 2 meters away from that feeder, and that's how you take your measurement. So now I know the distance from the camera to the subject. I go back to continuous focus, which I normally use, and I go into the menus to get into the focus limiter. Now it's under the autofocus settings, so that's the 3rd setting, and it's on page 3. Although just quickly, just make a note, I've got it under my menus too. So my menus is a short version of menus of just the things in there that you want. So I haven't got to go hunting through all the menus to find it, it's just in my menus. But let's go back and do it the hard way. We'll go back to autofocus menus, 3rd page in, and there it is, AF limiter. At the moment it's set to off. So I've got to switch it on. And I've got 3 choices, and I'm going to pick OM-1 because that's already set up to 5 meters to 15.9 meters, and I can now change that to whatever I want. So we open that up, and I'm going to put it to 1 meter. I don't have to be fussy about this. 1 meter will be fine, and this I've got to set up to, we'll go for 2.5 meters. So I'm not worried about it being precise, I just don't want it jumping onto the background. So between 1 meters to 2.5 meters is fine in this circumstance. So I OK that, and there it is, it's confirming it, 1 meter to 2.5 meters. Press the button, go back to the picture. It will now focus on the feeder, but it won't focus beyond the feeder. Just won't go onto that background at all. The other thing I should mention is that the figures given, such as the 2 meters from the camera to that feeder, is not necessarily accurate. It might not be 2 meters. It doesn't really matter. It still works. You've got some sort of guideline to work with, and you set the focus limiter. I've set it to 2.5 meters as the maximum. That might not be an accurate 2.5 meters if you was to measure it with a tape measure, but it doesn't matter. It still works. So you have 3 settings where you can keep some preset options, and it's something that I'm going to try and make more use of in the future. But for now, let's just look at a few pictures I've taken in the last few weeks. I've been concentrating on birds amongst gorse. Now these shots were not all taken on the same day. I've had to put quite a bit of time into it, but here we have a dunnock, or the hedge sparrow. And gorse is just such a bright, colourful plant. It's a lovely backdrop to the bird. All of the pictures are taken with the 150 to 400mm lens. Quite a high shutter speed here, 12,800th of a second, which I didn't really need, but it was just a bright, sunny day. And a stonechat sunning itself. You can see the feathers are all fluffed out. And this is also a high shutter speed, 10,000ths of a second. You could take that at 500th of a second. It wouldn't make much difference. And a singing wren. None of these pictures required a hide. I'm just standing there or sitting on a stool on occasions, just keeping still. In the UK, the wren singing in the spring is one of the commonest bird songs you tend to hear, and very recognisable. Now when you're taking stills pictures of a singing bird, you do need a faster shutter speed, 2,000th of a second and upwards, otherwise the bill is not going to be sharp. And meadow pipits. All these species happen to be birds that are approachable on the whole. And I managed to get a few flight shots of the meadow pipit. Thanks for watching.